Okay, people, coming at you here. Little video here. Got some capacitors here. Please no comments on how ghetto it is. I know. Got my little bench power supply here. Got that running here to charge the capacitors. Got a little kicker amp there. Playing on a subwoofer. Got my multimeter here. Currently with all the power off, there's a light charge there. And I'll show you how these are wired. I've got my negative coming in here, going to each capacitor bank. Then I've got test leads here. Positive is going to here, which is going to this this battery level indicator here, analog battery level indicator, and a light as a resistor. And then so all the power that goes to and from the capacitor goes through the light as a resistor and through the gauge, so we can see what's happening. Then I've got my multimeter here hooked up to the array in parallel, so we can see the voltage. It's at 0.02 volts here, and so we'll show you what it takes to charge the capacitors and what it looks like discharging them, and how those affect while you're playing music. So I'm going to turn everything on here, and we'll watch them charge. And so I'll do this a couple times so you can notice the voltage, notice the light, and notice the gauge. Here it is all at once. See, that maxes out, voltage is falling, lights off. See as slowly it goes down there. Alright, now watch as I charge, look at the gauge. Alright, now, turn this off, wait for the voltage to go down. Now watch the light. Ready? Final time here. Just watch the voltage. Alright, so what's happening here is the array discharges itself because there's no input voltage. It just returns all to zero, which means that there is a resistor across somewhere, and I'm assuming that's in the power supply end, so make sure there's no static charge on the computer, because I'm using computer power supplies. And then when I turn it on, when I turn the system on, power goes through the light bulb, and there's quite a bit of current going through the light bulb, enough to make it hot enough to glow. So the light goes on as it's charging, because there's a big voltage differential between the practically 0 volts here, currently 0.1, 0.05 volts, between the voltage on the capacitor array and the voltage coming out of the power supplies. And then you can clearly see when I turn it on here, this gauge, when it goes to the right, I believe, let's see. Yep. When it goes to the right, it's being discharged. So as you can see there, it's losing current, but it's losing less and less current as the voltage gets lower and lower. And then when I power it on, left is when it's gaining current, so when there's current going into the array. So as you can see here, turn it on, voltage is going up, it's snapped all the way to left because there's current going into it. And then the light also lit up, showing that there was a lot of current movement. And so now you can see when I turn it off, there's a lot of current coming out, so the light maxes out there. So you can see, you can see the effects of the capacitors and how they're charging and discharging. And if we turn it on again, and I hope you can hear me talk over it, so I'll just go over this ahead of time just in case you can't. But you can see when there's peaks in the music, like on the beat or drums, stuff like that happens and causes a spike in the current usage, the computer power supply can't handle that spike very well. It's very slow to react. And so these capacitors are able to react faster, and so then there's a lot of current drawn from those. And so you can see how, kind of regardless of the volume level, there's about the same usage of the capacitors. So I'll show you that here. Okay, so that was a little different than I expected. As the output on the subwoofer grew, as I turned it up, the spikes, of course, on the beat and stuff, much greater current draw, so it drew a lot more current from the capacitor array. So, kind of summing up what a capacitor does, as their name and as a common term for them, they're a stiffening capacitor. They don't add any more power to the system, but they're there to kind of fill in the gaps at the upper and lower end of the current usage, so that your voltage doesn't vary as widely. They're not going to give you any more power to your system, but they're going to make things a bit more stable. So, in usage such as this, you might get higher quality sound because your voltage isn't dropping as badly, but you're also not going to get as high a voltage because the capacitors do take time and they take current to charge, as you could see when I powered it on and it turned the light, and it made the light go on. So, in short, the capacitor will not solve any electrical issues you have, but it will smooth out your voltage. So, you may see that it reduces your headlight dimming, and that is not because it's giving more power to your system, but that's because it's reducing the fluctuation in current, essentially. And a battery does the exact same thing, only it can't charge and discharge as quickly, but it has a much higher capacity. So, there's nothing wrong with getting a capacitor, but the reason most people choose to buy a capacitor is for the wrong reason. And at the price, if you're getting the $60, $80 range, it's cheaper just to get a battery, a second battery. You're going to get a lot more performance out of it. So that's my short little spiel about capacitors, and I thought it'd be pretty cool to show you kind of a visual array of what happens when you're charging, discharging a capacitor there. So I hope you found this slightly educational. If you've got any questions, comments, please feel free to let me know. I'll try and get back to you as soon as I can. And hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching. Stir the Dirt, signing out.